Hello everyone and welcome to our next video. This video is part of a series where we are implementing a microservices-based social media application with the main goal of learning the microservices pattern. And we also want to come across some of the main challenges of microservices and how we can solve these challenges, which are mostly communication challenges and data management challenges. So we are still at the beginning, and we have implemented quite a bit of functionality in our sign-up route in our authentication service. And now we are implementing the functionality of sending a verification email to the user that has just signed up. So in the previous video, we implemented the email sender class following the singleton pattern. It's still hard for me to pronounce this word, singleton pattern. And today we will continue by implementing the first check that the application should throw an error when sending an email if the sender is deactivated. If you want to get more information about what we are implementing here, I will link to the video where I give a more overall approach of what we are trying to achieve with the email verification. And then you can check that video and come back here, or you can check that video in the next one. This is the third one of all the videos regarding the email verification. In any case, what we want to do now is we want to deactivate. We want to take the email sender instance and we want to deactivate the email sender instance. And as you can see, the deactivate pattern is going to cause the test to fail. So then we need to go back to the email sender instance and we need to implement this method. So now I don't need to have a static variable. I can actually have an instance variable, which is going to tell me if this instance of the email sender is active or not. And here I can create a public method, which is going to be called deactivate. And this deactivate is going to be its only job is to set this dot is active to false. So now this test should begin to pass again. And if you are wondering why am I talking so much about tests and it's your first video that you're watching, apart from microservices, another of our focuses is test-driven development. So I will always be talking about tests and we will write a lot of tests during this series. So I also think there will be quite a bit of value added there if you're interested in unit testing and later on in integration testing and possibly end-to-end testing. But in the microservices universe, it's a little bit harder when you go into the integration and end-to-end world, because their integration is exactly one of the challenges, right? So if we have a monolith, we have everything in one place, and it could virtually work that we make the integration tests in a not so complex setup, but for microservices we'll need a little bit more of setup, but we will get there when the time comes. Until then, there will be quite a few videos of working in functionality that we still need to implement. So here I deactivate the email sender instance. And now what I would expect, right? What I would expect is that if I have my email sender instance, and maybe I can just rename this because it's clear that it is an instance, right? So I would expect the email sender dot send email, and this would be, let's say, to email. There will be test@test.com. I would expect that when this promise rejects, it throws an error that the email sender is not activated or is not active. Right, so this of course will fail because we don't have the send email method, so we will do it now. With the send email method, we actually need to mark this method as async and not for the moment, so we don't need to mark this for the moment as async, because we are simply going to return, we create a new promise and we return that new promise. But in the future, when we have the functionality of actually reaching out to the back end, we will need some asynchronous logic. So I'm already counting on that and declaring this method as async. And this method is going to return a promise. And this promise is going to have the shape, let's say, of success. And success is going to be a Boolean. Okay, so actually, I think that I have here in my chart how this would look like. Okay, so the send email response is a to email and a status. So let's work with that. I think we can continue. So let's maybe create the type here. Export type email sender send email response, and this is going to be to email is a string, and status is also a string. And then status is going to be actually not just a string, it's going to be success or fail, or even better, error, right? So now I can ensure that I return a promise of the type email sender send email response. So in our case here, we also need to receive the arguments. So let's go back here and declare the arguments. Export type email sender send email args, and this is going to receive just one argument, the to email argument. This is also a string, and it's just the email that we want to send the email to. So now here I have my args, which are of type email sender send email args. Good. So we have a little bit of code like this. This is not going to fail at compile time anymore, but it will not reject, right? So if I send my, or if I save my code, I will still have a problem that this is not going to pass. I'm not going to throw any error here. So let's see exactly. I have a compilation in the promise here because I don't return anything. And then it doesn't even let me test, right? So I think we need to come back here and we need to declare a return new promise, and then we obtain the resolve, and I will resolve with a new value that is going to be to email, that is going to be my args.toEmail, and I have success, and I have a status of success. Okay, so that's just to take these things out of our head and to get this error, take it away from our code. And now our test should still fail because I'm not rejecting my promise, right? But at least now I'm at the point that the expect method is actually failing. So how do I make this pass, right? So how do I make my test pass? Well, if my test passes, it means that my promise gets rejected with an error of email sender is not active, right? So in this case, what I need to do here is some validation logic. And for this, I will implement a private method called validate email sender, which will simply check if not this dot is active, throw a new error with email sender is not active, right? And I think I didn't put any dots there. So now what I can do is I can simply call this dot validate email sender, and if this does not pass, meaning if the is active is false, this clause is going to be true and my error is going to be thrown, then I'll have my error in my test. So the error is going to be generated and the promise is going to be rejected. So let's see what's going to happen to our tests. Okay, I think that here. Okay, I think it's just a typo. Sorry for that. Is not activate. That's wrong. Is not active, right? So I was wondering why the test was failing, but everything I think is under control, and it should pass now. Exactly. So I was wondering, it's very easy to forget. For example, if I remove the async here, I'm pretty sure this whole test is gonna fail. Let's have a look. I don't know how Jest exactly is going to handle this, but I'm pretty sure that exactly it's going to fail. So it's very easy to forget such keywords like the async at the beginning or the await at the beginning here. And this can be quite confusing when we are debugging, but as long as we keep an eye to detail, then I think we can spot these things easily. And as we do things incrementally, right? We should do things incrementally so that we can work with the code without having too much to debug. We can spot our errors right away. Good. So in this video, we implemented the method to deactivate the email sender and also the error here that we are expecting to throw in case the email sender is not active. So I'll stop here. Let me run my commands for prettier fix and for linting, which I'm pretty sure is going to catch a few things for me. Yeah, there is an unexpected empty constructor, which is this constructor, and I can just mark this as maybe no op or something like this. Let's see if it will complain, and it also expects a return type from this function, which is a void type. And this is also a void type. Let's see what's going to tell me now. Exactly. So now the constructor, which is empty here, it can, well, I mean, it really doesn't make sense for us to add, or I mean, maybe in some cases it will make sense to add arguments to the constructor. But because we are making the constructor private, we can ensure that it's not going to be called from outside. And now every time that we get the email sender, so email sender.get instance, it will always be the same instance. And in the next video, or in the video after the next, I think I'll enter into a little bit more details of why this is important for us. But just to give you an idea, is that suppose that I have two instances of email sender lurking around my code, right? I instantiate it once, and then somewhere else I forget that I already instantiated it, and then I simply instantiate it again. And I call it, but I forget to set the email client in one, or the email API in one of the email sender instances, and I call it expecting that this is going to call in the background a specific email API, but because it's another instance which has another completely independent set of variables or internal variables and attributes, then this doesn't happen, and this can be quite annoying to debug. So this is why we want to have only one instance of the email sender and make it accessible only via a static method that returns either the already populated instance, or if the instance is empty, then it creates a new one. Okay, good. Then I think that with that I can commit this code. I will push the code to the cloud and add the commit to the description of this video as well. And I'll see you in the next video when we will continue the implementation of the email sender class. Till then, thank you very much, and bye bye.